Alright, welcome back to the SuperCoach and channel. In this video we're going to look at the teams for week 3 of the pre-season challenge, the final week of trials before the NRL season kicks off. So it's just before 3 o'clock Brisbane time, which is when team lists usually drop. Obviously 4 o'clock in New South Wales. But just a little bit of housekeeping, I suppose, while we wait, and that is around organising the order for the draft leagues. So we have 2 draft leagues this season. We've got just the regular redraft league, and also the start of the dynasty league. So that'll be a keeper league, which in theory will continue season to season. So if we go in, so currently, if those that are involved with the draft might have seen this order, this is randomly assigned. But I guess just to give everyone a fair crack at it, I do like to hit this randomise order button. And I guess it's always good to do it on the video. So if my name ends up here at number 1, which I'll be pretty stoked about, you know that it is completely random. So we will hit the button. And as it turns out, Pam did not change at all. Still number 1 in the league. Got number 4, so pretty happy with that. I guess the guys down the back end might not be so happy, but there is always ways of getting ahead at that back end of the order. So done with the draft league. That will be the order. So for those that are keen to start their planning around their draft, feel free. I usually don't go in with too much of a plan. Maybe a rough idea of what I want out of the first handful of picks, but you know, you've always got to be flexible. So we'll do the same for the Dynasty League. So only 8 teams in this, so a little bit easier to get around. I just realised I haven't put the same icon as usual, but that's fine. So again, we'll randomise the order. Oh, there you go, number 1. Thanks for coming. So yeah, we'll lock that in. No edits here. It's all one take. So I can see Pam, number 1 in the regular draft league. Unfortunately, number 8 in the Dynasty League. But with 8 teams, obviously, there will be some stronger sort of starting teams. But I guess with the keeper league as well, there will be deeper squads. So a slightly different strategy around picking younger players that could potentially serve us in the team for years to come. So yeah, so I guess got those draft orders done. I will put a little note in the group chats for the draft to let everyone know. But hopefully everyone's watching this video as well. So I've gone a little bit early. It's not quite 3 o'clock. We'll hit the refresh. Oh, and it's in. Lovely. You'd love to see that. So pre-season challenge team lists. Here we go. So first game, Seagulls, Panthers. So for the Seagulls, so looking through, it looks like a mix of their starters and some bench options. So interesting, Falalo on the at fullback with Hopewadi on the wing. So maybe a suggestion that he might get the start there on the wing this year. Obviously no Tom Trbojevic, no Brooks or Cherry Evans in the halves. And then the forwards, so pretty decent looking starting pack. I know Paseka is carrying a bit of an injury, so this could be pretty close to starting. I know Josh Aloiai maybe would have been there last year. But interesting, Jazz Tavanga named in the 9 with Simpkin on the bench. So might be how they look to start the season, taking advantage of Tavanga's history of playing at hooker. And for Penrith, wasn't really expecting any of the stars given that the other Vegas teams are all done. I think the Panthers may have drawn the short straw there with having to put a team up this week. And as you can see, it looks pretty well like a reserve grade type squad. The likes of Kapoa playing on the wing. Tom Jenkins, I think, has played a bit of NRL in there in the centres. Sonny Luke, interestingly named in the halves, alongside Tolau, who's played a bit of bench hooker as well in the past. Gilly Scott actually playing in the 9. Preston Ricky and Hassett, I think, have both played a bit of first grade. But yeah, I think all of their sort of squad for Vegas has already gone. So a familiar name there on the bench, Uda Ikamanu, must be a brother of Stefano or some relation there. So no real surprises, I don't think, out of those lists. There you go. So you can see Tom Trbojevic, Daly Cherry-Evans, Olakawatu is the other one missing that I missed out on. So, I mean, a lot of that might be, the rest of that might be pretty similar to what you'll see in week 1. Next game, Eels and Tigers. So, looking at the Tigers, getting a bit closer to what I would imagine a full-strength squad would be. Heath Mason at fullback again for Dream Buller. So Adam Dewey named in the halves, which is interesting. Thought maybe he'd be in that line for a centre spot, but maybe again they're just trying to give players a run. I guess in the forwards, Terrell May starting, so it'd be good to see him. Obviously, we won't get too much of an indication of his minutes, but I guess just good to see some of the starting options. So Saith Farth named on the edge. I know he's been pretty popular there. Alex 12 named at 13 with Jack Bird on the bench. So that's pretty interesting. I have had Jack Bird in my team for a while now, but if he's not going to get the start in the 13, then it may be one that we potentially fade. Interestingly, I haven't named a 17. They've gone a bit of a shorter bench as well, so might be looking to get some more minutes through some of these guys. So, nice. For the Eels, just having a look through. So, fairly full-strength backline. Obviously, no Josh Addo-Carr. Bailey Simonson as well might be out, although Addo-Carr named on the bench. So, might try and find him some minutes later in the game. The halves both getting a spell this week, so Volkman gets another run with Twaddle, I guess is how you'd say that. And then the forward packs, I get the C. Jermaine Hopgood. I guess he's one I haven't really considered because I wasn't sure about his fitness, but have a good chance to have a look at it. And interestingly, the forward pack, Katoga and Taulangi, named the start on the edge. There's a bit of talk that Riles isn't a big fan of the likes of Bryce Cartwright, Sean Lane, so it could potentially be their starting edges. And if that case, Tuolangi is obviously a great option, but Kaltoga, super cheap, would be a very interesting option. But you can see Cartwright's on the bench. Can't see Lane on the bench, but that's fine. Interestingly, Hands sort of named right down in jersey number 23. So whether Riles goes with an 80-minute hooker, but we've been burnt by the Eels hookers before. So Dragons Rabbitohs, so the old Charity Shield. Just having a look, a pretty full-strength sort of squad for both teams by the looks of it. So Gutho at fullback, Finau and Fiernay on the wings, Suey and Holmes in the centres. So I'm trying to think if there are other wingers, but maybe the preferred starting options to start the season. And the forward pack looks pretty strong. So Toby Couchman named to start. His brother Ryan coming off the bench. I think Ryan is the cheaper one in SuperCoach. So it could be part of that middle rotation. You'd imagine there wouldn't be a lot of opportunity for Cook and Little to both operate at the same time. Maybe they play one of them as a lock, I'm not too sure, but I think there could be some good middle minutes for Ryan Couchman there at the Dragons. So the Rabbitohs, so Tass and Munro named on the wings. Declan Casey named in the centres. So they are a bit short on outside backs at the moment, South, with a couple of injuries. So that's pretty interesting. I guess in the forwards, Kalamatangi and Duncan named on the edges. So I know last year we were pretty hyped about Duncan getting the edge spot and getting some better minutes. But Cam Murray still to come back into this team, probably at 13 based on the team they've named here. So Jamie Humphries named in the 14 as well, so potentially Mamazelis not looking at 80 minutes. But I think still a viable option given that he does look like the starter there. And then just looking a bit deeper as well, not a lot named on the bench and a few outside backs at that, so maybe looking at getting some good minutes into Kepi, Mawali. Fletcher and LeBlanc would probably be the other middle forwards there in the rotation. Broncos, Bulldogs, so unfortunately a bit too busy to get out there at 4:30 out of Redcliffe, but should be a cracker, especially given looks like they're both running pretty full strength sides. So for the Bronx, Hobbo on the wing as advertised. Shibasaki getting the start in the centres over Mariner, so who's named on the reserve, so must be ahead of the pecking order there with Madge Maguire. I guess the forward pack is where it's most interesting. So Corey Pake's getting the start in the 9 jersey. Cobra Heathington named in 13 with Carrigan moving to the front row. And Jack Gajeski getting the start on the edge over Pierre Kura. So, Pierre Kura's named on the extended bench. Just having a look. They've got a few options for halves, so probably Billy Walters. They do have Tyson Smoothie as well. So, yeah, they've got a few halves there with Madden, Rogers, Walters, and Smoothie. I don't know how they're all going to get game time, but I guess maybe Ben Hunt and Adam Reynolds won't play a massive amount of minutes. So I think from that bench we can't really take too much into the forward rotation, but you'd imagine it's probably going to look like Jensen, probably Tapau, and Takura is an interesting one that seems to come up a bit in conversation. Could be Pierre Kura as well as a bit of an edge cover option as well. So be interesting to see how that bench lines up for round 1. And with the Dogs, so Connor Tracy at fullback, Blake Wilson and Montoya on the wing. So there was a few articles about which rookie would replace Tuala and Kiraz, who are out fairly long term, it would seem. I think everyone forgot about Blake Wilson, but not me. Big fan of Blake. Don't know if I'm going to put him in my Supercoach team just yet, but it's very tempting. The forwards, as expected, King and Hughes starting, kick out, Preston, Mann. So pretty much their best 13. And the bench is probably pretty close to what they're going to run with. So no Tomamone named, so I might have to replace my bench front rower with a different option. There is a couple, so I'm not too stressed. But interesting, Rinakama getting a spot on the bench alongside Sewer, so they will get some minutes. O'Neill and Tia, so the halves will probably come in at some point. But again, it looks like the middle forwards, another team where they're trying to get some minutes through them and work on rotations. Dolphins, Titans. So the Titans looking pretty full strength. Although Donahue at hooker instead of Marshall King. So maybe just getting a rest. Yeah, not too sure. Might be just keeping him in cotton wool given the injury history. Plath named on the edge. That's interesting. So Tom Gilbert playing 13. Plath playing 12 and Fini Fuiaki in the 11. So good news for people like me who have picked Fini Fuyaki. Max Platt, does he score well on the edge? Don't know. And the bench, so it looks pretty close to what they would run with. Junior Tupou sort of being the back cover. I think if one of the halves went down, Avarillo would just slide in so Tupou can cover any and all injuries across there. For the Titans, so Jalen de Groot named at fullback with, okay, it looks like there's a few sort of missing. Um, no Khan Pereira, no Kinney, obviously, although Kinney is named on the bench. Khan Pereira is named on the bench, Campbell. So interesting they've gone with these starters. But it might be an interesting sort of look at the next man up sort of thing. So obviously if Kinney goes down, De Groot could come in. Tony Francis could cover one of the wingers. Obviously Kieran Foran covering for Campbell. Big Tino named on the bench. I've skipped forward a bit, but that's pretty big. But just looking at the forward pack, he might be starting off the bench, which isn't ideal. But they also have got Brian Kelly and Kinney on there, so probably not reflective of round two sort of their bench. Probably Pahulu would come into the team, you'd imagine. But yeah, it might be a bit of a question mark over Big Tino starting. But I'll probably still back him in. Roosters Knights, so the Roosters looking pretty full strength. So Nwanga Natuasi and Toya starting in the centres. So Spencer Leniu getting the start. So we thought maybe Nafahu White, but it looks like they're going to give Leniu the start. Siwa Wong named in the 13 is very interesting. That Butcher on the bench, I wasn't expecting that. So very interested in Siwa Wong. And also the young hooker Iola Elu, I think is how you say it, I'm not sure. But named on the bench, so they might not be playing Connor Watson for 80 minutes. So that could be a very interesting decision for super coaches. And on the Knights side of things, looking pretty full strength as well. So probably the big shock would be Phoenix Crossland at 9 with Brayley on the bench. Tyson Frizzell moving to 13. So Lucas and Pierce Paul both named on the edge. So if you like one of them, that obviously secures their job or increases their job security. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that team goes. Very full strength. Two, what I would suggest, full strength teams there. So can't wait to have a look at them. Storm and Cowboys. So the Storm sort of slowly creeping towards fuller strength. So Paps not named, although on the bench he is named. So Bradley and Anderson instead of Warbrick and Coates not named on the bench, so probably just resting up. Munster is going to get some time, which is nice. And then the forward pack looks pretty full strength. And then I guess Valepu, one of the other ones I was looking at as a cheap front rower, thought he would squeak on the bench over a Joe Chan. But maybe something we need to revisit there, another option not afforded to us. And then the Cowboys, so having a look at their team. So having a look pretty full strength, so it's great news for Jackson Purdue, Tom Duffy, a couple of cheapies who we can probably lock in. The forward pack, not too sure if there's any super coach relevance. Maybe a few people looking at John Bateman there on the edge. I guess Nanai and Cotter will have their fans, and Reece Robson too. But then I guess they've missed 17 on the bench, so could be any one of those guys you'd imagine come round one. It'll be interesting to see what Todd Payton does there. And that's it. So I guess in terms of what that means for our teams, um, a couple of the earlier news items has adjusted my team a little bit. So if I scroll down the bottom to start, so Jacob Kiraz has got a dodgy back, a dodgy hip, so I think he's too much of a liability to start. He'll tough it out and play probably more games than we anticipate, but I guess I want to see some evidence that he's scoring points before I commit. So I have gone Brian Tyro for now. There is an opportunity to maybe sort of go a couple more mid-price options. I'm not 100% convinced on that yet. At the moment, I think we can still pull off the double premium centre wing option alongside McLean and Munro. So, again, we don't get any clarity around who's going to get that wing spot at the Panthers. So, at the moment, we'll sort of hang on to McLean and we can adjust given that they play. I think it's the first game. Oh, no, it is the second game in Vegas, but we will know well in advance about who will be filling in there. Purdue on the team sheet this week's good news. Toya, I think we can lock in. Tamale is just the interesting one. If we go back, I can't remember too many full strength teams where there was probably another cheap option confirmed. Yeah, there's a few playing, but don't know. They may just be filling in. Maybe Shibasaki would be relatively cheap. Maybe Casey. I think Isaiah Tass is not too expensive as well. Um, Maybe Stafford Tower if he is going to start in the centres. And yeah, that's probably about it. So I think for now we might run with Tamale because the way I see it is he might only get round one, but then he is potentially one injury away of coming back into the team. Um, and I know we don't have any Storm players at the moment, so he could become a pretty handy loophole option in weeks 2, 3, whatever it is that we need around that. The halves haven't changed. Tom Duffy getting named in the 7 is good news for our structure. The forward pack might be where we do a little tweaking. So Barnett, we're happy to lock in. Finny Furiaki getting the starts good. Connor Watson, bit of a question mark there about do we trust him if he's going to play 50 odd minutes. Probably still scores well and probably a nice option to sort of flip into the hooker space if we need to. But probably on the bench is where we can tweak a bit. So Jack Bird not getting named is a bit of a concern. So I might pull him out and I'll put in Siwa Wong, named to start in the 13. So we don't mind that. Trey Mooney looks like he's going to get some good minutes there at the Raiders. Ideally, we want him to start next week, but he may also become someone like a Corey Horsburgh if he is named in the squad. So basically, happy to shuffle that to whichever Raiders middle forward is going to get a crack. And Laban looks like he should get the start there at the Warriors. So at that price, we like that. As we said, the other potential option could be Kautoga at the same price if he does get that edge spot at the where is he? The Eels. I can't even tell from that. So that could also be a possible out for a Monet. So not in the 17 by the looks of it. I guess the sort of option we had at about the same price was via Lepu, but looks like he is also just out of the 18. If we have a look at the Tigers, so Hunt coming off the bench, so probably wanted him to start to back him in as a viable option, given he is slightly more expensive. So what other options come up in the front row? So none of those sort of cheap options like Takura, Va'a, Roberts were named in around the starting 17. Maybe Greg. named to start there at the Eels. I know no Joe Offahengawe named there. Might have been a little bit of trouble for a prank he pulled in the game last week. But after that, I'm not too sure where to go. So I'm thinking, and it's probably going to leave me a bit sort of blackballed in terms of the front row having three guns up there. But do we move Barnett up and bring Kautoga onto our bench? I mean, it means we'd have to play one of these three or Kautoga. So it could be maybe we'll bank on Horsburgh getting a start here, maybe. I haven't really seen much about him. He didn't play either of the trials. I couldn't find if it was injury related or what it was. But we may have to go with something like this. Obviously, him playing in Vegas does help a bit with the structure of the team. But other than that, I think we're pretty good for the time being. We still have 115k to spend, so there is a little room for manoeuvring. Could be looking at, do we fade Mamazelis and go with, what's Tom Gilbert at, actually? 462. Okay, not quite. But yeah, he could be very interesting as an option. Playing 13. It could also come down to, Casey McLean could free up another couple of hundred if Jesse gets the start on the wing there. So yes, I don't think we need to sweat it too much at the moment. We'll have a look at the trials this weekend. Things can always happen. But structurally, I think we're pretty well set. It's just making those decisions on who fills the spots, basically. So we'll wrap the video up there. It's already gone a while. So if you've got any questions, comments, thoughts, as always, feel free to add them below this video. Give us a like if you're enjoying the NRL preseason content. Join the legends that have subscribed. I think we're up over 520 now. So we're increasing all the time, which is pretty cool. But yeah, other than that, we'll catch you in the next one.